Well, Dave, it's undoubtedly the biggest game of the season, a place for Wembley up for grabs. I guess these are the kind of games that everyone wants to be involved in.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the start of the season, like I say, in terms of where we wanted to be objective-wise, was to try and get out of the division. We still have an opportunity to do that. We go into the game, although I believe, like I say, well in the tie, at a slight disadvantage. But different game, different day, different environment, different atmosphere, and looking forward to what's in front of us.
What is ultimately the message to the players ahead of a game like this? Is it to go out and embrace it, enjoy the occasion for what it is?
You have to do that. And the ones, as I said before, the first game, the ones who do that better give themselves a better chance of winning. And ultimately, you're better in these type of games with experience. And some would say there's no sort of substitute for that. So we'll be better for last week's game, just as Salford will in terms of how they went about it and what they did. But we have to, like I say, we have to focus on us. We've got 90 minutes, 120 minutes, penalties, whatever it is in front of us, and we have to find a way of making sure we've progressed to give ourselves, like I said, the ultimate opportunity at Wembley in just over a week's time.
We discussed last week that ability that County have had to stay in games this season and how well that served you. And by your own admission, County not at the best last weekend, so to be going into the second leg at home, only a goal behind, it's certainly not a terrible position to be in.
No, listen, like I said before the games, I wasn't doing it for any type of psychological reasons or anything like that. I think the four teams are really, really closely matched, and both games are very close in terms of what they look like. Both games looked surprisingly similar in terms of what happened on the night in both the games, and both are set up nicely going into the second legs, as you would expect them to be, as I expected them to be. Like I say, from our side of it, and from Salford, as much as it will be about winning the game, it will be making sure you have an opportunity to go and progress in the second game. I think both teams have the opportunity to do that. So we've got to, like I say, we've got to look at us. We have to look at what we need to do better in this second leg than we did in the first leg. And hopefully, like I say, that'll be enough to take us forward.
And defending the longest unbeaten home run in League Two as well. I think 6 months since your last loss in the league at Edgeley Park. That's the kind of form that will make you really back yourself going into a home leg.
Of course it is, but again, within that, this is a different game. So we'll always back ourselves to, like I say, at home with our supporters at our back, and really feel confident within that. But again, you're playing against a team who are better away from home than home. So if you can look for statistics in excuse me, in different ways. Ultimately, we go into a big game in front of a packed Edgeley Park, slightly behind in terms of the scoreline, but as I say, 90 minutes plus to play, with every chance of hopefully progressing. We need to go and perform. That's the be all and end all in terms of us moving forward in this mini competition, if you like. So, like I say, we have to focus on that. We have to be better than we were last Saturday and do everything we can to give ourselves a chance.
Is it simpler to approach this game? Because obviously last weekend you presumably got the second leg in your back of the mind, the whole tie. With this game, it is just all about the 90 minutes and you know what you need to go out and do. Yeah,
there's much more clarity, especially in a scenario where you are behind, I suppose, because in the first game, from our perspective, as much as you want to push and try and get in the game, there's always going to be that jeopardy of pushing too hard, opening up and end up conceding, and being behind even further, if you like. So there's a real clarity in terms of where things stand now. And I think, listen, not so much from a management perspective, but certainly from a player perspective, they can focus on what needs to be done, like I say, over the course of the game to give ourselves a chance to move forward.
Interesting what you said last week. You saw the Sheffield Wednesday result and how that potentially had a knock-on effect on the rest of the first leg ties that we saw across the EFL. Did Luton on Tuesday night potentially provide the template for how we can go about getting back into this game in the second leg? Yeah,
you'll take bits from all different games. I think the Sheffield Wednesday game was, I suppose, completely out of character in terms of what playoff games look like. I think we looked before the opening game that something like more than 70% of playoff games are decided by one goal because of the the nature of the game, the jeopardy, the consequence, the prizes at the end of it, they're all pretty nervy affairs. I think probably what that first playoff game did was, certainly, again, from a player's perspective, because you don't try and certainly pick out them things, but it would, I suppose, further enhance the feeling that the first game is the leading game to what happens in the second game. And both of the games over the course of this week, and I'm sure will be the case over the next couple of nights as well, have certainly been in the balance. Although, like I say, Luton came out the traps flying and got themselves in front, the game was still in the balance right until the death. And similarly, the game last night at Middlesbrough was exactly the same. A different type of game, probably a little bit more cagey, but in that instance, the away team's gone and got a result. So, listen, anything can happen. We've got to, as I said, without sounding boring, we've got to control us better than what we did last Saturday. And if we do that, we feel like we've got a chance in the tie, and that's important for us to hang on to. Start the game as positively as we can. I think there's been a lot of talk about the first goal and how potentially important that will be. Listen, the first goal is important in any game. For me, probably the second goal is maybe more important in terms of what that looks like. And you have to expect everything. You have to expect adversity. I've spoken in my programme notes about it. The season is full of it, and the playoffs are only like I say, an enhanced version of that in terms of ups and downs, highs, lows, disappointment, joy, all them different emotions that it brings. It brings it in 90 minutes. So hopefully the emotions from our perspective are at the positive side, and we can look forward to one final game.
One thing Luton did really well on the Tuesday was they really got the fans involved from the start. It really was an electric atmosphere at Kenilworth Road. I'm sure it'll be the same on Saturday. How important is it that those county fans stick with you throughout the 90 minutes, particularly, as you say, if there are any moments of adversity? Yeah,
massively important. But what I will say is a sort of to counteract that is, as I've said right from the start since I came to the football club, was that we feel, and I feel, we are responsible for that in terms of what we produce on the pitch. So we have to take advantage of those moments, but we've got to try and keep the crowd, because there'll be 10,000 or close to 10,000 of our supporters in there. We've got to keep them in the game for 90 minutes. If we've kept them in the game for 90 minutes in terms of their involvement and what they're giving us from the stands, then I suggest we're in a decent situation within the football match as it goes. Well, there's been some special days, special nights at Edgeley Park in the recent past, and this could be another one of them. Regardless of what happens, like I say, we'll be giving it our all, and I'm absolutely convinced that the people off the pitch that are, like I've said before, not enjoying the game, but watching the game and hoping that we can get a result and progress, will be doing exactly the same.
Penalties is obviously a possibility too come the end of the game. Is that something that you've prepared for this week? Yeah, well, look, listen, you prepare for every eventuality, and I think that's something that, go back to the League Cup tie earlier in the season, we prepared for penalties, although you might not be able to tell. And similarly, last season we did exactly the same in terms of FA Trophy and things like that. So we have an idea. There's some people that we last year that took penalties. There are other people that, certainly from a staff management perspective, we wanted to look at in terms of confidence and belief. Now, I get it's a completely unique environment and situation. It's different taking penalties in front of no supporters and empty seats than it is in front of, like I say, in front of fans that are, in one instance, trying to encourage you, and in another instance, trying to put you off. And you have to deal with that, as I found out a couple of years back, in terms of what that potentially looks like. But if that's the way it goes, although I think both teams would say they'd hope that the game would be decided in normal time or in the course of a normal football game, then if that's the way it has to be, then that's the way it has to be. And one team will, again, have a huge elation as a result of that, and one team will have severe devastation. So, like I say, I trust in what we're doing, and I trust that if it gets to that point, I've got belief in what the players will give us and give us a good chance of progressing. I have to ask the question on injuries. Last week was obviously difficult, not just in terms of the numbers, but injuries to key personnel in that county team as well. I mean, are you hoping to have anybody's back for Saturday?
Certainly hoping. Again, some have been out longer than others. I think the big thing for us last week was not just the team we started with, was more around the bench and what that looked like. And we didn't have not huge options. We had options. We had lots of inexperienced options. I'm hoping that we'll be better served this weekend. But some have done a little bit today. We have to see if there's any reaction, and we have to, again, potentially get them involved tomorrow and make a decision. Probably the first time maybe that we're looking, and we're potentially going to the Friday in order to see how people are, in order to pick a team that we think will start the game. And within that, starting the game will be very different to finishing the game in terms of the players that are on the pitch. But that's like I say, a much better situation than we were in last weekend. At least we potentially have some hope and have the opportunity to go into the game with some important players back for us.
When there is so much resting on the game, so much on the line, do you look to take risks with certain players, or do you have to be a bit more careful and open-minded with stuff like that?
I think in terms of risks, listen, risks can be described or defined in lots and lots of different ways. I think you would never put a player at risk, if you like, in terms of serious injury. I think sometimes that's taken out of our hands. Our job is to make sure that we set down every situation. We've done this previously this season in terms of players going, no, I want to play, I'm fit, as long as they understand what's the potential consequences. Every time you cross the line, or every time you run out of a tunnel, every time you got onto the pitch, there's a risk involved in football. It's a contact sport. There's risk when no one's near you. So as long as, like I say, they're aware of that, there'll be calculated risks potentially. Like I say, some players that are closer to I suppose that cut-off point will be deciding factor in some instances. We're certainly not going to put anyone at a distinct risk that may mean that they're out for potentially longer than they might be, as much as this, like I say, this is an important game, an important couple of weeks for us. The bigger picture is for some of them, they've still got a career ahead of them, and we have to make sure we protect that as best as possible.
And just finally, when you look around the excitement around this game, the excitement around the club at the minute, I mean, tickets sold out in less than an hour. I think it's potentially the 5th or 6th home sell-out in a row that we've had at Edgeley Park. Regardless of what happens on the pitch on Saturday, this is a pretty special time to be involved with this football club right now.
Of course it is. Like I say, and it's the reason why we're all here. We knew this would hopefully be the case, and as I said previously, this football club will become a League One club, whether that's this year, whether that's next week, whether that's a year down the line, whatever it might be. There are plans in place to make that happen, and I think what's happened this year, just in terms of the off-the-pitch stuff, in terms of the sellouts, the increased interest in coming and support the club, makes really good, I suppose, reading in terms of what the plans are with Mark and with Johnny moving forward, and for the plans around Edgeley. The important thing and the vital thing is that the things on the pitch mirror what happens on the pitch. Large parts of what will happen off the pitch will only be dependent on the success we have on the pitch. So we have an opportunity, and as I said, it's easy to move on. Expectation will always be here. From our perspective, there'll never be any entitlement. We know exactly where we are. We were a National League club at this time last year. We got ourselves into the Football League. Our first attempt, we've given ourselves a chance of becoming a League One club. We'll do everything we can to try and take that and give ourselves an opportunity next week. Regardless, the club will keep moving forward, and it is a very, very special place to be part of, and we all want to be part of it for a long time.
Appreciate your time, Dave. Good luck.
Cheers, thank you.